Good afternoon from Bali, everyone. It's Anifa Menon from heartfelt.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. So today I'm back into this windy spot, which I have to tell you is such a pleasure to sit in because of a very hot day and very high temperatures, and so it's nice to have this breeze, and I hope that you'll be able to hear me through any noise that you might hear because there's a bit of construction that's happening. There we go. And of course, wind itself can add a little bit of noise to this video. But today I wanted to talk about the second part of conversation that I alluded to in the last visit about great conversations. And I talked about deep listening in that video. And this video, I'd like to start with this quotation by Nhat Hanh, which I'm sure we normally think of as Thich Nhat Hanh. But it says, I am determined to practice deep listening. I am determined to practice loving speech. Loving speech. So this video today is about loving speech. And I thought it's so important for me to share this too because in North America, certainly, there's a lot of speech, whether we say it's because of freedom of speech or because people are very eager to share their thoughts, and oftentimes in times that they're not very happy. So whether it's in situations of road rage or whether it's in office politics or dynamics that one person is not happy about some situation, usually they're very outspoken. And this is a generalization because there's a lot of people, even in Canada and North America, that hold in the things that they're not so happy about. And I wanted to talk in this video about the things that are the most meaningful. So not someone moved this computer from where I was using it, not like that, which is also a concern. Yet there's some deep truths that people sometimes don't speak about. And in Bali or in Indonesia, I will say that I see this even more often, and I don't think it is happening any more often than in North America. In North America, it's the illusion that people are speaking. People know how to speak. People are confident enough to speak. People have the courage to speak. And if they don't speak, they write out the notes of complaints or send out an angry email or text. That's not really speaking loving speech. And so I thought I'd share this quotation too. This one I thought was just a really good way to set our minds on this. This didn't have a particular author, but I loved what it said. It says, believe. When you speak from your heart and say the words that your soul has only dared to whisper, that's when miracles happen. That your soul has only dared to whisper. So when you speak from your heart and say the words that your soul has only dared to whisper. Dared to whisper, and oftentimes those are the things that we might be holding on to in our hearts. And this is a heart-centered communication. When I'm thinking about healthy communication, it's from a heart space. So when we think about speaking from the heart, oftentimes it's those things that are very true to our soul. Our soul is much more loving. So when it expresses, it's coming from a space of loving space. And when it speaks to our minds to then express it through our communication, it allows us to share things that are very meaningful. And it's interesting that again here, and I'll say in most of the world, most people can easily get caught up in day-to-day experiences, like, oh, I gotta get the groceries, or here, go to the market in the morning, gotta make this food, and this is what we speak about even, that, or gotta go to the temple, or there's this particular occasion, this function. I know in North America, people will be gearing up for Christmas very soon, and it's interesting that we can talk about those things pretty easily. Who's going to be coming to this event? How many people do I have to cook for? What will I make? All of those things, they go through our minds and we even talk about them easily. Then there's the things that are a little bit deeper, a lot deeper. And many minds do not even allow the expression of those things, because we can imagine if the soul has only dared to whisper these things, you can imagine the space that it comes from. It's kind of a hesitation to speak out loud these things. And so today I wanted to talk about great conversations include the speaker that dares to speak also. And this is this loving speech. So I would say that anywhere in the world we can practice this, that It doesn't have to be with the person closest to you. It could be with anyone that we speak with. And a loving speech is not something romantic that I'm talking about. A loving speech is filled with love and compassion, with a true feeling of speaking from the heart. And I thought one of the ways that you might be able to understand this better would be from this quotation by actually Mother Teresa, and I just love it for the message. She said, "Speak tenderly. Let there be kindness in your face, in your eyes, in your smile, in the warmth of your greeting. Always have a cheerful smile. Don't only give your care, but give with your heart as well." So this is interesting that we can give in terms of the actions that we do. We can also give in terms of the words that we speak. So when they're from the heart, they are with a tenderness to them. They're not rough. And you'll see this in many relationships where originally when the relationship is new, it's like, "Oh, are you over there?" And the person will say, "Oh yeah, I'm right here." And over time, it's like, "Are you there or not?" And the person, "Yeah, I'm right here." So the energy changes about how we communicate. It's not a tender communication. Or, "Why didn't you hear me when I was calling you? I called you 100 times." It switches into a functional but a much more aggressive sort of communication. And there isn't a tenderness in communications that we often do regularly. So in this, someone is very loving to a friend and calls and wants to speak, and it's like, "Oh my God, this friend calls all the time." And even the friend that's speaking in that time of, "I want to talk to you again. I know we just spoke 10 minutes ago, but I really have something on my mind now." That's also not a tenderness, because that tenderness coming from the heart comes from a space of compassion for ourselves and the other. Now, a person who is speaking with kindness, with tenderness, it comes through in the words that they write, in the words that they speak, in the actions that they take. This is a speech of how I interact with the world or with people or with things around me. I know that many of us love pets or animals and how we speak with them too, but it's not only out loud, it's also in our minds. When we get into the habit of speaking tenderly, just naturally, we start doing this with everything. So then the people that are most important to us, we definitely speak tenderly. But what has happened is oftentimes people go through situations where tender communication has not been there, and because it's been less than tender, less than loving, people stop speaking. And we can see this happening in the world where I don't really want to know what's happening over there because, oh, it just makes me so angry, it makes me so sad, it makes me any emotion. So I don't want to speak about it either. So I'm just going to, if I speak about it, I speak about how wrong those people are that are hurting the people that I'm concerned about, or I speak harshly about the situation. I can complain about politics. We all do various things that are more from a harsh space. And then the consciousness of knowing what am I choosing to speak about and what is the energy that's being released for me to speak. Now remember, I'm talking especially about those heartfelt spaces that are not about the world around us, but about ourselves. And it does take a courage to speak truths about ourselves, because it does also take a little bit of self-reflection or introspection. And in that, some of our biggest self-judgments can be something that are spoken. Some of our biggest fears can be spoken. And when we speak from the heart, when we know that it's being heard from a space that's from the heart, it makes us want to speak too. And that is beautiful communication. Now again, like I said, today, I believe that more people have got into the habit of, I just won't say anything. Sometimes it's because I don't want to burden the other person. They've got enough worries on their mind. Or sometimes it's just because I don't feel I'm worthy of sharing this, or I don't even know how to say this, or I haven't really even thought about my thoughts. I just feel this way. But that's also something to express. And when you express it from a tender space, you'll find that that expression, not only are you expressing, you'll notice that when you speak this way, half of the healing happens just because of the speaking. And this is how we became comfortable with, or most comfortable, many people became most comfortable, at least in North America, about speaking with a counselor or a therapist, a psychotherapist, some people a psychiatrist, whatever someone might be used to or feeling comfortable with, some healthcare provider, let's say. Or it could be someone's best friend. That's the person you always speak kindly with. But that's then very specific to that best friend, or specific to this person, or specific in this situation. That's not really the art of loving speech or kind communication or speaking from the heart, because one can speak from the heart in those places of safety. But when you speak from the heart in every situation, we improve the energy that is in our workplaces, whether you're working alone at your own home or your own desk, or whether you're working in a team. Is important of how we speak to each other, and not just will you get this done, or could you do this, or I really don't like how you did this. Now I'm going to say it nicely. I really didn't like how you did that. That's such not an authentic space of speech, and we'll feel those energies. It will be when someone is speaking from a heart space. If I'd really like to get this done, could you possibly help me with this? It's a very different energy than, this needs to get done by tomorrow. A very different space. And this is what has happened as we've become very functional, and I'll say focused on responsibilities and goals and direction, more from future thinking or fears of the past. I don't want us to get behind because we did last project, or I know I asked you to do this at home last time, you haven't done it, so I'm really on your back now because I really want it done. So our tone changes, our mannerism changes, our gentleness changes. And then what we started doing is just not saying anything, because either I'm too frustrated that, nothing changes no matter how much I ask. It's not really the heart space of speaking too. So if I work on the way I speak from a heart space, which actually has much more compassion and love coming through, compassion for myself, my own experience, and compassion for the listener too, is a beautiful thing. That, wow, you know what, I'd really, really love if you do this. This is really not easy for me to do what you promised that you would do, and it's just one more thing for me. Could you please help me with this? Whether in a workspace or in a home space, if we start speaking like this, truth comes out easier. So we can actually feel that there is a person who is feeling perhaps overwhelmed, perhaps not so easy, and who is sincerely asking for help. And this can come from a boss too. And you know that different relationships have some patterns too. So bosses asking for help, or CEOs asking for help. It might be just one person. This is the person I trust, and this is the person I'll speak to. But if they just get into the habit of having kind communication, then they're speaking from the same space that they're listening from too, and this is from the heart. I came across this other quotation, which I thought was fantastic. It's by P.J. Neblet, and it says, "Speak with your mind." No, sorry, my correction. See with your mind, speak with your heart, touch with your eyes, love with your entire being. And I think this is so perfect. So when you see with your mind, you can see that this is the truth behind this situation. This is actually a lot more work than this person can handle. Whether I'm thinking about a family member, or whether I'm thinking about a co-worker, or my employee, or my boss. No matter where I'm thinking, I'm seeing it with my mind. I'm seeing the truth of this detail. I speak with the heart. So I speak from a caring, loving, compassionate, kind space. That's speaking from the heart. Touch with your eyes, because, people love to touch. And it's interesting. You can really help something live more beautifully, more kindly, more abundantly when you touch with your eyes, where it's like where there's this true appreciation. You can do this through a flower, where you know that it's not even necessarily your words, but even the appreciation of looking at a flower with appreciation helps it grow better. It helps with people too. You'll notice this when you do this with children, that when you're touching them with your eyes, it's, kids often look to see, is mom watching, is dad watching while I do this? And when they're watched with appreciation, you just see them light up. And we all do that still, even as adults. And it's a wonderful thing to feel touched by someone's eyes. I often use the quote or the line that says, it's better to be looked over than overlooked. At the same time, I'm not talking about like that lusty looking over. I'm talking about an appreciative looking over. And then oftentimes people don't do this with the people that they're closest to. And I'm talking about relationships. So if you're in, whether a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, a relationship with a partner of any sort, if you're in that relationship or a husband-wife relationship or a parental relationship, do you speak with your eyes? Do you show an appreciation to whoever you're looking at with those eyes? And of course, it doesn't have to be a relationship, but I do feel that people start taking those relationships more for granted. And so when something new comes up, it's very easy to appreciate the new child, the new man or woman, the new friend, the new whoever. And that's such a beautiful energy to share. And when we recognize that we're not sharing that with the people that we often care most about, perhaps we can put a mindful attention to make sure that it just becomes who we are, that looking with our eyes, to touch another person with our eyes, like to touch, to feel they've been noticed, they've been appreciated, they are appreciated. That's a beautiful space. And then love with your entire being. And how do you love with your entire being? This is, again, not talking about sexual love, romantic love, touchy-feely love that way. I'm talking about loving where you put your whole effort into your presence with another. That love is definitely palpable, and it's with your whole being, where it's not that you're distracted. It's like, oh yeah, listen, I see so many people even here, whether on the cell phone or talking to someone else or pushing a stroller or walking a dog. I used to see a lot in Canada. Anything, even with a group of friends, and I keep paying attention to this one, but it's not really with your entire being, because I'm also looking at that person and saying, oh, you know what, did you notice what so-and-so's wearing? Is that loving with our entire being? Even if I'm putting my attention into speaking with you, what am I emanating? That's not love when I talk about something not so good about another, even as I love showing you that I'm here with you, talking to you. So this whole idea of love with your entire being, it's your words matter, and our words do matter. When we're loving with our words, make sure that we pay attention to be able to share from this space. Now, this means that when we're speaking about something that's heartfelt, and perhaps we're speaking to only one person in a moment, are we speaking lovingly? Because that space, again, honors ourselves and our own experience, and it could be not an easy experience that we've gone through that we're sharing. Are we speaking from a space that's tender to ourselves and to whoever we're speaking about? Can we come from a space that just emanates kindness, that even when something's not easy, not good even, that we can come from that space that is compassionate? Because that is what makes beautiful communication. That compassionate speaking, being received by a compassionate listener, is true, beautiful communication. I wish today for you to experience this, and I also thought I would end today with this particular quote, that because I know I do work with grief recovery, or have worked with grief recovery for so long, that it's just so much part of my thinking, my style, my manners, and my awareness, that I know that there's so many people that don't speak about their wounds and silently suffer. And so yes, psychotherapists, psychologists, therapists, naturopathic doctors, medical doctors can all be useful in terms of the therapy that someone has for speaking about these things, which are very important and useful. And again, like I said, in Indonesia, I don't see people speaking so much at all. I don't believe the concept of going to a therapist to speak about concerns is thought about as much as it is in North America, or perhaps even Europe. It's more about just keep it in. This isn't worth talking about. And of course, we've gone through that process in Canada too. In Canada, I do know that there's a lot of people that are hurting. Here there are too. And I thought I'd leave this message for anyone who is in this space, who's not speaking about things because they're hurting. They're either embarrassed, fearful of judgment, feel that it would take money to speak to someone to get something off their hearts. Of course, journaling can be useful. Or often just don't want to look at it. I don't want to deal with this because this happened some time ago, or I don't want to. So in that, I wanted to leave with this quotation. It says, I hope you heal from wounds you don't speak about. I hope you heal from wounds you don't speak about. And this, I just think is so touching, because I think majority of the world is in this space of so many wounds that we don't speak about, personal wounds. So rather than talking about other people's wounds, or that person did this to me, rather than the focus being on that person or that community, that workplace, focus on I'm wounded. And when we focus on I'm wounded and speak from that heart space, there's room for healing. So I wish you all that room for healing, whether you're speaking to yourself about your wounds, and I hope you're speaking to another about your wounds from a heartfelt space, knowing that that in itself is going to provide some healing. I wish you a fabulous day ahead, and I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day or night, everyone.